So I'm going to give you guys two examples of how to animate your characters moving forward. In fact, I need to import an actually rigged character because none of these characters, these are from the original chess tower, so you can move them this way, but they don't have a rig. If you look into the, if I hit 4, these guys don't have a rig, just the base con at the bottom. So, but I already have my scene set up. So I'm going to, oh man, I hate when it does that. I'm going to import a rigged character. I'm in primitive theater. I have my pawn UV4. Is that the latest one? Actually, no, I called one protester. He was rigged and I think he was ready to go. Oops. Not quite ready to go. Let's just say he's ready to go. What is, oh, he's eating a bagel. I remember that. I forgot about that. Okay, well, we don't need the bagel anymore. But I just want to make sure his rig is working. Yep. Okay. Actually, yeah, maybe we'll use this bagel. So let's say these guys, there's a war about to start. This is really distracting. I'm gonna do something about this board. Okay, I'm just gonna assign it a new material. There we go. That's a lot better. All right, so let's say in our first shot, so I have my camera that I've already created. In fact, let's have him off scene for now. So camera 1 is, yeah, let's see what camera 1 looks like. So when I set my scene up, like I mentioned before, I go to layouts, 3-pane split top, and I'll have my channel box over here. I'll use usually my left view as perspective view. So I can actually, that's where I consider the perspective view my work area. You don't really want to work in your camera view because it's too easy to accidentally move your camera when you thought it was locked. And you can see my attributes they're all red instead of gray. So that means my camera is hot. I can move it and it's going to move, and I don't want to do that. So to undo that move, I hit the left bracket right next to the P. There we go. So I'm going to lock my camera. In fact, I can lock it here too. So now I'm not going to accidentally move it. So let's just look at what my camera is doing. Yeah, so it's just kind of zooming in from 200, actually, let me set my numbers correctly. So frame 200, or I'm sorry, 201. The first camera was 101 to 200. So the second camera, I'm going to make it 201 to, I'll give them a couple, let's see, 201 to, so 200 to 300, that's, how many seconds is that, guys? 24 frames a second, close to 25 frames a second. You guys remember? 100 frames equals how many seconds?
About 4.
Perfect, about 4. Good enough for us. It doesn't have to be exactly, but so it's taking, I'm giving them 4 seconds to zoom in here, and then what happens after that? So let's say on frame, in fact, maybe as the camera's pulling in, maybe these guys are actually getting more in each other's faces. And, if I was spending a lot of time on this, I would go back and forth from one character to the other in different cameras, but just for the sake of this exercise, I want them to move as far as they're going to be at frame 300. So I'm going to key that, actually both of them. I'm also going to key at frame 201. That's where they're going to start their movement. And I'm just going to slide these guys forward. And we're not really going to, we'll see that they're getting closer, but we're not so much focused on their movement because they're, it's going to happen over 4 seconds, and the camera's moving. So we're really not focused so much on their movement. Oh, let me lock my board again, sorry. Okay, so these guys are right up in each other's faces. Maybe they'll do this. They'll be rotating forward, like they're really getting back and forth in each other's faces. Okay. Yeah. So they're really getting ugly. All right, so then what happens? So let's have our protester guy here. Let's say he's a lover, not a fighter. And he's gonna come in here with his bagel, kind of check him out. Hey guys, what's up? And I'm just kind of playing with these characters. I'm just kind of giving myself an idea of what I want to do with them. I'm trying to think of where the best staging would be, because if I want him to be close in between them, but they're so close now that he's kind of in the wrong spot. Or maybe I have him get to someplace like this, and then I could zoom in really close to see all three of them. So anyways, I'm just thinking out loud for you guys. I haven't figured out exactly what I'm going to do. What I do know I'm going to do is I'm going to have him off screen, and he's going to walk in here. So that's the main thing I was talking about, is showing you guys how to animate a character coming onto the scene. So I'm going to key him at 200. And I'm also going to key him at 300. And there's no movement there, but I just want to make sure that eventually actually I do have him moving. Let me get rid of that. And key him again at 300. And now back and forth, there's no movement on that character. Okay. So let's take another couple of seconds. So 300 to 350 or so. That's 2 more seconds. I'm going to have him move from where he's at to where these guys are. So I'm going to key him at 350. And I'm going to start him actually walking at frame 300. So it's going to take him 2 seconds to get there. 1001, 1002. And I may actually move him forward, because I want to see, let's see, where does he actually get into the camera? I want to cheat this to make it as easy as possible. So he's visible there. I'm going to put him there at 300 instead. That way he has less to walk. Instead of walking from here, he's off camera. So I don't want to have to make any more work than I need to for myself. So I just moved his position, and he's still off camera. That's the important thing. So at 350, I'm sorry, at 300, when he's starting to walk, let me actually make this bigger so you guys can see it. He needs to, let me turn off my control, I'm going to turn off everything, then turn on my polygons, then turn on my NURBS curves. So I'm not accidentally selecting the joints. In fact, I should restrict the joints so I don't accidentally grab them. Also, I don't want to accidentally grab any of these as I'm trying to grab his his controls. So I have those on a layer called, I thought I had a layer, cons, yeah. Okay, so I turn off the cons. Also, I don't need this bagel right now. Maybe he's eventually going to bring it up, but maybe he's going to offer them a bagel instead. So I'm going to turn off the bagel layer. I can leave the bagel con on, because I'm not gonna see that in my what's it called, my camera view. Oh, another thing that I forgot to mention. So far I've been keying his base con, and this is a really important thing to talk about. We need to key not only his base con. If I select his waist con, you can see I haven't even keyed it. There's nothing on there. Hopefully it brought in a protester cons. Yeah. Okay, so with this protester con, this is his cons layer. I need to key everything on this character. So go back here at 201. I'm going to right click on the cons layer, say select objects. And this seems like a lot of extra work, but I guarantee it'll pay off. So I'm going to key everything. And then let's see, there's his. So the next key was at 300. I'm going to hit S again. And then at 350, I'm going to hit S again. So, and even though I'm mostly thinking about where he's moving, maybe for layout, I'm just moving the base con, but we're actually talking about animation now. So at 300, I'm going to start rotating his, using all these controls, maybe not the bagel control, but, or maybe not the megaphone control. In fact, maybe I should turn the megaphone off too. But the other ones I'll use to get him forward, because he's going to be using his whole body to kind of hop. And this is of course a more challenging way to move the character. So I don't need to see all this right now. I have it out to 960 frames. I just want to see 300 to 350. So I grab this little square and I'm going to drag it way in. And he's not, so I'll drag it to 350. Also, I don't need to see 200 right now because he's not even moving at that frame. So I'm going to drag it from 300, or you could just, put it in here, whichever one's easier. 300 to 350. So now I can just easily slide back and forth. My timeline is 50 frames long, so I can see it's a lot easier for me to see than all the extra frames that I don't need. And I'll hold down Alt and Shift, and I'm expanding out my graph editor. Okay, so we need to get him on this in camera. So let's say it takes him, well, okay, so 2 seconds. Let's say, how far away are the rest of these guys? Let me turn to. Okay, so these guys, I would say they're probably 2 hops away. Nerve surfaces. Yeah, I forgot these are nerve surfaces. So 1, 2, he could probably get there in 2 hops. So at 325, he needs to be at least halfway there, right? And what I'm doing right now, this is called, oh, that was the principle that I forgot. There's I said 11 of them. The 12th one that I forgot is pose to pose and straight ahead. So what I'm doing is pose to pose, and really what pose to pose is it's planning. I know I need to get him halfway there by 325, and by 350, he needs to be all the way there. So you can see he just kind of pops from one frame to the other. So it's going to take him 1 second to get halfway there, another second to get all the way. So we have 24 frames to have him squash, jump up in the air, land, and then be in this position. So maybe he's even started. Actually, let me just go to 25 for the sake of time, because this is going to be a really long video if I animate the whole thing. So let's say he's already here. I've already animated him to 325. So as far as walking him forward, at 325, with a walk cycle, you want to have the character contact the ground. So I'm going to rotate him back, and I just want to have the top of the foot, or the I'm sorry, the back of the foot, back of his base, just tangenting the ground, like right there. So he's that's the contact position in the walk cycle. And he needs to then, the next frame, let's say 2 frames later, 1, 2, 327. So I got to 327 holding Alt and hit the greater than sign twice. So hit the less than sign with Alt, and it moves back. Okay, so here's 327. He's actually going to slap the ground with his the big base. So I'm going to rotate this back to 0. But I also need to drop it to 0 in the Y. So you can see he's starting to bounce forward, but we don't want his whole body slapping the ground at 325. We want one thing coming first, his base, maybe even you know what, my all button isn't working. So another thing we need to do is, and this is a very simple rig. I needed to key all these. So I'm going to grab, I'm just going to go through and shift select each individual control, because my all button's not really working. I'll include the bagel in case I decide to use them. So I have everything selected. I'm going to go back to this protester PonCon. I'm going to right click on it and say add selected objects. And I need to key those the same place I keyed everything else. So and actually even earlier, I would do that at 200, 300, and then at 350. Let's say that's where he ends. Okay, so I've keyed. I've my what's it called? My cons layer is acting as what we call an all button. So I can select one of these and kind of get a feeling for where I was at on my animation. But when I'm ready to key everything, I right click on that and I say select objects, and then I hit S. And you can see I missed a couple of things the first time because I didn't have my all button selecting everything. Okay, but what you don't want to do is have everything selected and then move everything. You can see as I do that, it stretches a rig and it eventually breaks the rig. So you use this cons layer select object as an all button to hit S at your key poses. So 300, 325, and 350 are my key. We'll call those my key poses. And now I'm trying to get to breakdown poses where the poses that happen in between those. So I'm actually gonna get back to 327. I wanna stay with this idea of pose to pose. What I'm doing at 327, that's actually more straight ahead, where you straight ahead means that you animate one pose, and then depending on if you're animating 24 frames a second or 12 frames a second or whatever, you just move to the very next frame, and then you pose the character out again, and you just keep moving forward like that. But pose to pose is much more about planning. So at 300, let's see, I'm going to skip 300 because we're going forward. So halfway between 325 and 350, somewhere around here. I'm just eyeballing this, maybe 336 or so, 337. So where does he need to be? Halfway between contacting the ground and landing here. He probably is in the air, right? If he's hopping. So at 337, I'm going to drag him forward. Oops, I still have the all button selected, so I have to hit S. And I just want to move the base con. So I'll move that forward. And I'm also going to move him up in the air a little bit because he's hopping. And he's going to land here. All right, so how do we get him from 325 to 337 to 350? In fact, let me delete this one too. Well, I don't need to delete it. I've already keyed it, so I'm going to go ahead and keep working with it. Go back to my selected objects. And my breakdown pose right here at 337, I need to hit S again. So again, even though I'm moving him up and forward, I'm using this select objects to key all of his controls so that when I'm ready to pose the rest of them out, I don't have to, I could just move. The important thing is timing. If I wanted to change the timing, I could slide this back and forth, and it's going to move all of his controls, not just his base con or just his waist con or something. In fact, maybe I could focus a little bit more on the actual pose. So if he's up in the air, he's probably not going to be perfectly straight. He's probably going to be coming in and out of a C curve. So let's do the breakdown or the in-between poses now. So here are my key poses: 325, 337, I'm sorry, 335, 325 and 350 are my key poses. 337 is my breakdown pose. It's the one in between those, or yeah, so a breakdown pose is the transitional pose between the key poses. And then the in-between poses are the transitional poses between the keys and the breakdowns. So let's get him to halfway between this breakdown pose and this key pose. And again, I'm just kind of eyeballing just what looks about right. It doesn't have to be perfect. He's going to be leaning forward, and he's going to be moving forward, and he's going to be dropping a little bit. In fact, what might help for me to get this right is to look at this from the right view. Because what we want to be able to do is follow, and I'll turn the other characters off for now, follow his path. So you can see at 337, he's up in the air. Let me go back. Down, he's up in the air. Maybe I'll push him even higher, maybe exaggerate that a little bit more. So he's coming down, but he needs to end up. Actually, that's not too bad. He's moving forward. Okay. And then at somewhere in between there, actually, again, this is an in-between pose. So I'm going to select the select objects layer, or I'm sorry, the protester pawn cons, and I hit S. So again, I'm keying everything on my keys, my breakdowns, and my in-betweens. I'm keying the whole character's, his whole rig, even though I'm not necessarily moving everything yet. So the next, he actually needs to get, he probably needs to be moving a little bit closer, because he needs to, maybe that's the next frame. So at 347, he'll go down even more. Oops, I have the all button. So I'm just going to move his base con down so it's touching the ground. And this is the hard part for a lot of students, is there has to be a point where he just initially contacts the ground. You don't want him passing through the ground, and you don't want him floating up above the ground. He just contacts the ground. And I need to move him forward again also. So I'm just kind of eyeballing this, his movement forward, but I can do a lot better than just eyeballing. So if I just zoom out a little bit, you can see his movement from 300 to 350. And it's really blocky. This is what we call blocking. It's not smooth yet. But let's go to I'm moving him forward in the translate Z. So I have the base con selected for the translate Z. Or actually I have the base con selected, so that shows all of his attributes that I've animated, or at least keyed, even if I haven't animated them. But what I want to do is select just the translate Z. And you'll see this blue line, that represents his movement forward. And I can get it much better so that when he's up in the air, so he leaves, yeah, 327 to 350. Actually, he contacts at 347. In fact, it's going to be a little bit later, so I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm gonna animate him from 327, give him a better pose. Not a 327, but he needs his the next pose, the next in between, so that he can be leaving the ground after 327. So I'm going to say 332 or so. Use my cons as my all button. I'm going to hit S. In fact, it looks like I forgot my all button again here, so I'm going to hit S again. Okay, so 332, what needs to be happening? 325, he's contacting the ground. 327, he's on the ground. 327, he's leaving the ground. He's rotating forward with the base con. And what I can do, so this is a really good opportunity to use my toes, my toe controls. And there's one below. Yeah, there it is. I need to rotate this up so it's still on the ground a little bit. Actually, let me go back to the right view. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to rotate it and pull it up so that's still contacting the ground. Maybe I'll pull it forward. I think I might have rotated him too much. I'm going to pull that up a little bit so he doesn't actually go through the ground. Maybe I rotated it a little too much. So in other words, his body, his weight is all on this front of his foot, so I can stretch it forward a little bit so it squashes. And then maybe the backside, maybe this is dragging a little bit. So if I drag this from the right view, instead of being perfectly plastic, like a toy where it's hard, maybe there's a little bit of plasticity in the object. So what's also nice is you can see I've created a really nice S curve in his body just from rotating his body and then rotating 1 foot up and 1 foot down. You get a nice S curve. And if you think about like a caterpillar, that's essentially how he's going to be walking. Or have you guys ever done the caterpillar, the dance? That was popular when I was a kid. Anyways, I was never very good at it. So going from 325. Oh, the other thing. Okay, here's another thing you can do. So at 325, instead of having his whole body perfectly straight, let's have him rotate this up, and he's dragging. That foot is dragging forward. In other words, it's getting there later than his body. And maybe the other one, the back one. Actually, no, that's a contact position. So that'll be fine. And I don't just want it to just get there, and I'm going to delay this front foot a little bit. So his body gets there, and then there's still a little bit of drag on his foot, and then it gets there. So let me just scrub through these here. Yeah, I didn't do that right. Boink. Yeah, I need to have this happen. Sorry, I should have had it happen earlier. Let me do that again. Okay, so it's going to happen here at 327. That foot is going to be rotated up a little bit because it's delayed just a tad. And then let's say 2 frames later, I'll have it back down. So I'll just zero these out. But I need to key his whole body. So use my all button. Hit S. Okay. So now let's watch what this looks like. And let's turn off the cons. So just looking at the foot, I haven't animated his upper body at all because I'm going to do the same kind of movement as his torso, give him some drag. So he gets there, he slaps his base down, and then his foot gets there, and then he goes the other direction, and then he's up in the air. So at 337, I need to, so I need to make a transition between those. Let me go to the, I turned off the con, sorry. There we go. Now go to the right view. So as I just scrub through this, hopefully his movement will start to become apparent. And in fact, I don't need to see 300. I'm going to go to 325. Change this to 325. So does he feel like he's you kind of feel the movement in his body? I mean, you see it obviously, but you get the feeling of this kind of a flop. So when his body is, I'm going to have his upper body get there later. So what I can do is drag. I'm going to drag from the waist. So the other thing about animating is you want to start at the core and work out from the core. So the core is his base con, and then this is he doesn't have any legs, so I'm working up from there. So he's going to be, I'm going to rotate him back a little bit. And then he's going to get there and he's still rotating back. Still rotating back. Let's see. I think I missed one. Hold on a second. I'll zoom in here. Yeah, I missed that one. Rotate him back. And these two are too similar. So he's going to rotate a little bit forward out of that. There we go. And then eventually, as his foot is still planted, the body's going to catch up and rotate forward until he can leave. In fact, maybe here I'll have him really rotating forward. Maybe I will have him. I've been fighting this, but maybe I'll go ahead and rotate the base at that breakdown pose. And then he's going to get there. Up in the air. And I'm going to have him still rotated forward here. Oops, sorry. At the waist. So I'm going to rotate him forward more. And then he gets there. He's still rotated forward. Actually, no, I had him rotate him back last time, right? He was, let's see how this looks. Yeah, so maybe he's leaning back after he gets there. Yeah, maybe I should have him go back the other direction now. And then he gets there and he's leaning back now to be consistent with the other side. So what does that look like? Doink, doink. So if I just play this, and it pops because 350 and 325 are not the same frame. Like he's moving forward and you see that jump. So from here, I could just keep working up the body. Maybe I need to, in fact, another way you can do this, I don't know how well, let's see. It might be better to just, yeah, keep going up like I was doing. I think that's the best. You can have more control this way. So I rotated his waist back, I think, on this frame. Yeah, there's a rotation there. I could rotate back even more with the chest con. In fact, I'm going to show you guys a little cheat. Since I'm having him rotate back quite a bit, I'm going to select just the rotate X. Here's my rotate X. And you can see I've already keyed, because I keyed my rotate. I mean, I keyed all of my the controls on my keys, breakdowns, and in-betweens. So if I wanted to go back through the next frame that he's at this point, which is right there, I could just take this value. It's -9 point whatever, Control C, and I could just paste it here. Control V. I could do the same thing with the waist con. Actually, I should have thought about that before. But you start to see a pattern here. This is starting to look like an arc. It's a very rough arc. It's a blocky arc, but it's an arc nonetheless. Because, and as you watch the movement, you'll see. So the really important thing, and this is a really hard thing for students to get, and I don't expect you guys to get it right off the bat. When you can start to understand how the shape of your arcs in the graph editor relate to the movement of your character, you're going to really start to be in a much better place, and it's going to be more fun because you're able to see things and do things a lot faster with the graph editor. But yeah, that'll take some time, so I'm not expecting that to happen overnight for you guys. But going back to what I was doing. So here's my rotate X. And again, this is kind of hard to look at. So I'm gonna hold down Alt and Shift and I'm gonna expand it so it looks a little bit better. So I need to create an arc similar to what I had on the waistcon. So most likely what needs to happen is these guys need to come down. In fact, I'm gonna grab all these guys. And I'm just kind of guessing this here. Let's see if this is right. Oops. And you have to be careful because when I dragged it, I wanted to drag it down, but you can also drag it left and right. So to prevent dragging in a different axis, hold down Shift, and that way it only allows me to drag up and down. And you can see how that changes the values, not only in the graph editor, but also in my character. And then if I wanted to drag and change the timing, I would drag it left and right. But I don't want to do that because I have all of his keys. I want to change the timing with his whole rig together. So let's say I'm going to drag this down for now. And then maybe these two guys. And then maybe this guy by himself. And I don't even know if that's right. It doesn't look very right here. Let's see what I did. Oink. Nope, I think I should have gone the other direction. So I'm going to undo that. That's how we had him. But he does need to go forward. So maybe these guys are going this direction. And then maybe this guy in the middle will go up by himself. What does that look like? That's what I meant to do, yeah. So again, you can still see the pattern here. I have this one frame that's kind of out of place, 29. I don't remember what that is. Oh, that was his foot control. And I think I rotated him forward too. So that's essentially how you could start animating these characters. And this is, again, this is a harder walk. If he's just moving, hopping, that's a harder thing to do, is to hop. So I'm going to stop the video here and I'm going to do another one where he's sliding. I'm going to say, oops, stop the video.